Well, this here is the all-new Kia Sonet. It's a car which takes on the likes of the Hyundai Venue, the Ford EcoSport, the Maruti Suzuki Vitara Brezza, the Nexon, as well as the XUV 300 and also the Honda WRV. Well, that's quite a list of cars that this car has to take on. So what makes this car so different and what makes it unique in a sea of other compact SUVs out there, and why should you put your money on the new Sonet? I'll answer this question by the end of this video review. Planning to buy any spare part for your vehicle, you should check out budmo.com. You can also download their app. It's available for both Android as well as iOS devices. And the best point about Budmo is the fact that they offer you the most extensive spare parts catalog across all segments of cars. And another good point is that they offer you the same spare part from a host of different manufacturers, different component makers, which means that you get various pricings and price points, which means the flexibility in terms of pricing is greatly enhanced and you can choose the spare part according to your budget. Now, if you don't like the spare part, you can also send it back within 10 days. And of course, Budmo will return all your money to you if the part is returned within the 10-day limit. Now, Budmo are the online experts when it comes to spare parts, and they offer you doorstep delivery without any issues whatsoever. They offer you genuine spare parts and the best pricing as well. Also inside the cabin of the Kia Sonet, and the first thing that you'll do as soon as you step inside the cabin is that you'll have to pinch yourself and you'll tell yourself, well, am I actually sitting inside a compact SUV? Because the quality levels, the feature levels, the feel-good factor is even better than mid-size SUVs. In terms of features, you get climate control, you get automatic headlamps, you get cruise control, you get cool front seats, which is a very good touch. You also get an air purifier, which is something which no other car offers in this segment. And of course, you get Bose sound system, which really does make this car feel a lot more luxurious and opulent than it is. A 10-inch touchscreen is there as well. In terms of the design, it's a feel-good design because you get the same kind of floating touchscreen that you get in the Seltos, and it's of course integrated with the gauges over here. The gauges are digital in the middle and analog and in the corners, which is very good. Now, in terms of overall comfort, the seats offer you good support, and I reckon that these are one of the better seats in the business. Practicality wise, also it's a good car. Couple of places where you can keep your cell phone and wallet. You can also keep a couple of beverages right over here, and of course the door bins are large enough to house those big 1 liter bottles from your home. So overall, what is my impression of the Sonet? The front seats get a strong score of 9 out of 10. Well, so I'm in the back seat of the Sonet. Now my height for reference is 5'10", and I always adjust the front seat for my height and drawing position. And if you're about 5'10" or 5'11" and your chauffeur is also the same height, well, you'll get just about decent amount of space in the back. It's not the best, but it's quite okay, it's adequate, and headroom also is more than sufficient. And of course, you get this armrest as well, which is quite nice and handy because you can keep a couple of beverages here. The seats themselves are decent in terms of comfort. The knee and hip angle is at a nice 90 degree. You get big windows at the back. There's also a quarter glass window over here, which means that you never feel claustrophobic. Your own AC vents, as well as a USB charging point and a small place where you can keep your cell phone. Now there's a bit of a lump in the floor panel, but it's not too much, so whoever's sitting in the middle can stretch his feet. Now it is a good car in terms of the width, so you can have 3 occupants, but 2 really will be better, but 3 is quite decent for those short seat trips. Overall, it's a decent place. Yes, a little more legroom would have been welcome, but it's quite okay and at par with its other rivals. Also, talking about the boot of the Kia Sonet, remember the earlier generation of the Hyundai Creta had a boot of 400 litres. This one is 392 litres, which is slightly lesser than the more expensive and much bigger Kia Seltos. So in terms of the boot, it's a nice and square boot, it's a deep boot, and there's a bit of a ledge, but because it is such a spacious and cavernous boot, I'll give it a good score of 10 out of 10. Kia's done a great job with the boot of the compact SUV Sonet. Now let's jump inside the car in the front seat and tell you how it is to drive. Well, so here I am driving the Kia Sonet now, and this car comes with the same engine options that you get on the Hyundai Venue. So it's a very familiar kind of car to drive when you're driving it. And if you've driven the Venue before, then you'll get a sense of deja vu when you drive this car. Now this car that we're driving today is the IMT version, which means that it gets the automatic gearbox or the semi-automatic gearbox. And essentially you get a gear lever here, which you need to change yourself, but there's no clutch. So half of the work is done by you and the other half is done by a car, and it's, as I said, a semi-automatic kind of gearbox. It's a good gearbox for those of you who want an automatic but want some kind of control over the gearbox and are used to shifting gears like this and using the lever over here. So it's a good car for people like that. Now what you like about the car is the 1 litre turbocharged engine, because it's 120 bhp, and in terms of power delivery it's a brilliant engine. It feels very refined, very good in terms of the noise isolation, and even though it's only a 3-cylinder engine, kudos to the Hyundai Kia group for making it such a fantastic engine in terms of refinement. Yes, this car stands out from a sea of other petrol engine cars in terms of sheer refinement, and that's something which bodes well for the Sonet. What you'll also like about the car is the steering wheel responsiveness. It's pretty accurate, it's a little light, and in terms of city use you will never feel tired driving this car all day long. On the highway also it's got a decent weight, even though it's on the slightly lighter side. In a total comparison with the best in class, which is the Ford EcoSport, I reckon that it's very near the Ford EcoSport steering wheel in terms of feedback, in terms of responsiveness, in terms of accuracy. But yes, the EcoSport has the overall advantage by a very marginal point or two. But yes, this one gets very close to that. But no complaints in terms of the dynamics of the chassis. It's a very dynamic chassis. It shifts lanes when you want it to. If you push it into corners hard, body roll is under control. And even though it's just a family car, and people who buy family cars don't take them out on the racetrack on a daily basis to drive them, even then there's some fun to be had in the Sonet, because the chassis is very dynamic, and the steering wheel also feels pretty good in terms of its accuracy as well as responsiveness. Now this is the IMT version of the car, so we've got this gearbox. It's a 6-speed unit over here, and the shifts are very good and very familiar to the ones, and very similar to the ones in fact of the Venue. So the throws are very narrow. You don't need to use a big hand to shift gears. All it takes is just this to shift gears like I'm doing at the moment, and that's a good thing for people who drive a lot in the city. What you'll also like about the car is the fact that the suspension feels rock solid at high speeds. It's a stiff suspension, which means that when you're doing speeds in excess of 100 kph or 120 kph, it really does feel very stable, very reassuring, and definitely a whole lot more stable than your last girlfriend ever did. Now, because of stiff suspension, some of those badly passeable and some of those badly made speed breakers might just enter into the cabin at slow city speeds. At faster speeds, not an issue, but at slow city speeds, that might happen. It's nothing which is uncomfortable or something which is a deal breaker, but since it's there, I just thought that I'll mention it. And again, if you compare it with the Venue suspension, that's the big difference. The Venue is slightly on the softer side, it's slightly more comfortable at slower speeds, and this one is slightly better on faster speeds because the suspension setup has been stiffened up quite nicely. What else is there to like about this car? Well, the engine is a phenomenal performer. It revs all the way up to its red line, which is about 6,500 RPM. And at that red line, it does deliver very good performance. The mid-range is very solid. It's a responsive engine as well. Turbo engines are normally not very responsive, so this is a very responsive engine. And what you'll also like is the visibility all around. You get big and chunky rear view mirrors, and mirror in the middle over here is also nice and big, so you can see what is happening at the back behind you. So overall, it's a very good car for driving yourself in the city. And it's a car which really does seem to hit the nail on the head in terms of offering you everything. And as I said, even though it's not a car you'll take out on the racetrack, there's some fun to be had because the cornering is good, it feels very stable, the steering wheel feedback is good, and the engine is a hoot of a unit to drive. Overall, very impressed with it. So overall, the Kia Sonet is a car which you can buy with your head and your heart. This car looks good on the outside, it's very comfortable to sit in, it offers you the best in class features, it offers you the longest list of variants as well as different specs. And what I'm trying to say is that if the Sonet is a car you're looking for, then definitely it's one of the best cars in the compact SUV space. While the Seltos established Kia as the maker of quality cars in India, this one will solidify the position as the maker of high class, value for money, as well as very competently engineered cars in the Indian market. Before I start sounding like a Kia salesman, I'll end this video right here and say that this is one of the best packages out there and definitely should be on your shortlist. If you're in the market for any kind of car, hatchback, mid-size car or sedan or even an SUV, then this is a car for you.